When the cops showed up at my lakefront camp, I didn't panic. I poured myself another cup of coffee and waited for them to realize they were standing on my land. By the way, if you're enjoying how this unfolds, go ahead and drop a comment, and share it with someone who will appreciate a good payoff. And don't forget to subscribe to QZ Stories for more calm, calculated wins just like this one. The two sheriff's deputies were polite, but their eyes darted between me and the cluster of HOA board members standing by the lake, arms folded, looking like they'd just caught a criminal. "Sir, they're saying you're camping here without permission," one deputy began. I leaned back in my folding chair, the steam from my morning coffee curling upward. "Without permission?" I asked, glancing past him to the so-called board president, a man named Dennis, whose sunglasses couldn't hide the smug little smirk he wore. Dennis stepped forward. "This lake is under HOA regulation. No overnight camping. Period." I didn't move. "You're saying this lake?" I gestured lazily toward the calm water behind me. "The one that sits entirely on my property?" The deputy's brow furrowed. Dennis didn't blink. "It's part of the community," he insisted. I could have argued right there, but I've learned something over the years. Stay calm, stay smart. You don't win against arrogance by yelling. You win by letting the facts do the work. "All right," I said, standing up slowly. "Let me back up. 2 years earlier, I'd bought this 50-acre ranch with a private lake tucked right at the far edge of the property. The previous owner had let the HOA use a trail across the far north side as a walking path for residents, but it was an informal handshake deal. Nothing ever filed. When I moved in, I made a simple change. No more casual public access. The land, the lake, the shore, all of it was mine according to the county plat maps I had framed in my office. But HOAs don't like losing control. And Dennis, well, Dennis hated that the nicest spot in his neighborhood was suddenly off limits. The first letters started politely. "We noticed you have been restricting lake access." Then they got pushier. "Failure to comply will result in fines." I didn't respond. Instead, I documented every note, every visit, every trespass. I installed trail cams along the tree line. I photographed tire tracks from HOA golf carts parked just off my shore. I even caught Dennis himself fishing one evening, after dark, on my property. The night before the deputies arrived, I had camped on my own dock with a small tent and a propane stove. Just me, a thermos of coffee, and the sunrise. That morning, Dennis must have seen me and decided it was his big moment. He called the sheriff, claiming I was occupying common ground. What Dennis didn't know, and what I'd been patiently building toward, was that every foot of the ground under that dock was registered solely in my name. And more importantly, I had proof that the HOA had been trespassing for months. So, when the deputy said, "They're saying you're on common property," I simply reached into my truck and handed over a folder. Inside, satellite maps from the county GIS site, my deed, highlighted survey lines, and, right on top, a set of photos showing HOA members fishing, littering, and even holding a barbecue on my shore without permission. The deputy flipped through them, then looked back at Dennis. "You called us on the owner?" Dennis's face went flat. I didn't press charges that day, not yet. I simply told the deputies, "I'd like this noted in the incident log." They nodded, handed the folder back, and left without another word to me. Dennis stormed off with his little entourage, muttering something about getting the lawyers involved. Perfect. A week later, I filed a formal trespassing complaint against the HOA, not as individuals, but as an organization. My trail cam footage, incident log, and witness statements from 2 neighboring ranchers made the case airtight. The county prosecutor agreed. At the hearing, Dennis tried to argue historical use, but without a recorded easement or written agreement, they had no legal ground. In fact, the judge not only granted my no trespass order, but also awarded damages for the unauthorized use of my property. The cherry on top? Part of the ruling required the HOA to remove their community lake signs, all of them, within 30 days. The next time I camped by my lake, it was dead quiet. No golf carts, no smug faces, just the water, the crickets, and a deep satisfaction that comes from winning without ever raising your